The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, welcome to the Kachmann Mind, Body, Spirit Show. Today I'm going to tell you some very important information which applies to all our lives, including mine. And this is about cancer prevention and reversal. The show 2 weeks ago, and you can see it on YouTube. You can just go YouTube, Rudy Kachmann, breast cancer, and that show will come on. And you need to watch that. We need to gather a lot of information, okay? And then I show you the cover of that book. Next month is Breast Cancer Prevention Month, and turns out that our genes represent maybe 5 or 10% of breast cancer, but the rest of the time it's our expression, what we're eating, whether we're exercising, whether we're smoking, etc., really what produce the cancer. It's not the genes the majority of the time. But today's talk will be about essentially all the cancers. I can't cover everything, but I'm going to give you a good idea on how to avoid getting cancer in the first place. So let's get on the road, okay? The goal is preventing, reversing, and maybe curing or avoiding cancer altogether. So our habits, when life starts for us, actually, is dependent in part on the habits of our grandparents and our parents, and what happens to us in intrauterine development. And the reason being is that when we are being born in the uterus, only 5% of our genetic script has been written. Yeah, if you take our genetic script, our DNA, you could stretch it out to the moon as long as, but only 5% has been written by the past history of our parents and grandparents. And what happens to us, 95% is determined, for example, by what the parents did before and the grandparents before that. But the most important thing is what the mother is doing while you are in the uterus, whether she's smoking cigarettes, whether she's listening to music, whether she's walking a lot, whether she's a happy person or a sad person. That will write the genetic script of the infant, yes. So it is extremely important that you listen today, that the gene theory of cancer really is, the genes affect us very little. It's our gene expression, the things that we are doing that affect what's going to happen to us. So let's get on the road. What are some of the hallmarks of cancer? When you look at a cell, we have 70 trillion cells in our body. But what would indicate a cell may be cancerous? Sustaining proliferative signaling. They get signals all the time to keep on multiplying. Evading growth suppressors, enzymes that might suppress cellular growth. They avoid those. Resisting cell deaths. Our normal cells have Hayflick limits. They divide a certain number of times, and they die, and they're recycled, but they resist that, enabling replicative immortality. Now, they can keep on duplicating themselves forever. That's characteristic of cancer, and inducing angiogenesis, that these tumor cells will develop new blood vessels so they can grow. They need blood supply. That's indication of cancer. Activating invasion and metastasis, that they can spread to other parts of the body. They have deregulated cellular energetics, and I explained that to you in more detail, and that they evade immune destruction. That's 8 characteristics of cancer cells. Okay, that's our subject today. So, and we can have genes that promote cancer cells, and we can have genes that suppress cancer cells. Okay, so cancer evades growth suppressors. We already spoke about that, and a gene was discovered. It was called a P53 gene. It's in 50% of the cancers. And for example, like breast cancer has in the BRCA1, the BRCA2 gene, those 2 genes suppress breast cancer. But if those genes are damaged, you're more likely to develop breast cancer. But it turns out that many cancers, including breast cancer, have many genes. Like breast cancer, maybe 200 genes, that what you have to do is avoid them from growing by not supplying them the nutrients that they're looking for. And so cancer cells resist cellular death. Those cancer cells want to die, and this P53 gene keeps them from dying at a very high rate. This gene was discovered by a doctor. And different cells in our body have different death rates, and they have Hayflick limits. They will divide a certain number of times, and then they go away. Skin cells live generally only about 3 days. Yeah, in 3 days you have new skin cells. Can you imagine that? Interesting. So cancer resists cellular death. And we talked about the Hayflick limits. A doctor by that name discovered that, and most cells in our body replicate 40 to 70 times, and then they go away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. In our chromosomes, part of our DNA, have on them some telomeres, which you can influence by what you do or what you don't do. And so at the end of our chromosomes, every chromosome has telomeres at the end. So when telomeres are too short, the cells die. And that's, normal cells will do that. So normal cells are mortal. Cancer cells are not. Matter of fact, they produce an enzyme called telomerase, which keeps the cells on dividing. Yeah, that's characteristic of cancer. Cancer induces angiogenesis. Remember, you spoke about the blood vessels. They need nutrients, phytochemicals to grow more, and they induce this growth of blood vessels. So tumors need vessels to grow to get nutrients to them, okay? And cancer cells activate metastasis, that they could spread. And that's what kills people 90% of the time, that the cancer is spread over the body. So that accounts for about 90% of the cancer deaths, yeah. So a hallmark of cancer is metastasis, that it spreads to other part of the body. If it doesn't spread, probably it's not a malignant tumor. It could be a benign tumor. It doesn't keep on growing. So there are some emerging hallmarks of cancer. So that the genome, the genes that produce the cancer, have instability. They keep on mutating, so immunity does not destroy them. Tumor promote also inflammation in the body. I'm going to discuss now a very famous doctor, Otto Warburg. He lived in Germany, actually, not too far from my town where I lived as a child. He lived there 1887 and died in 1970, and he proved cancer is a sugar eater. Yes, cancer is a sugar eater. And I explained the science of that to you a little bit. And that's when we take advantage, when we order a PET scan on somebody, but cancers are sugar eaters, and we can run this scan on people and find out if they have tumor spread all over the body or it's just confined to one spot. And cancer tries to evade immune destruction. And this is something which is hard almost to believe, that all of us, including myself, make some cancer cells every day. Yes, we all make some cancer cells every day, but our immunity destroys them. There's the good news. Yes, when they autopsied people who had no disease, they died, and they examined their tissues. They found 39% of the people had breast cancer in the body, and other organs, other cancers, not the only one. Yes. The only thing that keeps them from expressing and growing is that we don't need to feed them. And other methods, which I'll speak to you. Oh, isn't that interesting? We make some cancer cells every day. Okay? So, in the Mayo Clinic, I put out a report that cancer was caused by genetic mutations. Well, that's not really quite true. The gene theory of the cause of cancer was thrown out in 2009. That's been known for a long time. So that's the mechanism, okay? That's the seed, the gene that makes it, but it's the soil that supports it. But that gives an advantage to us. We provide a good soil in our body, and cancer won't grow. Our body has cancer in it all the time. We have to have a good immune system. Okay? So why do cancers develop mutations? Is it the smoking? For years, we smoked cigarettes, and the industry managed to fight it. And we kept on smoking, and people kept on dying of cancer. They were making a lot of money. But it's kind of interesting. When you grow a tobacco leaf, you know what the next thing they do after they dry it? Okay, for 2 or 3 days, they soak it in molasses. Yes, they do. Yes, cigarettes have sugar in them. So is it the sugar that people are seeking, or is it the nicotine? Isn't that interesting? Gary Taubes has that in his book, but I had read it long before that. That has confirmed it to me. So the Europeans brought smallpox to the New World, viruses, and they killed the populations because they had no immunity to it, okay? But they brought back tobacco. The natives were smoking tobacco. Yes, they were. They brought it back to England in 1614 in 1614, there were 7,000 tobacco shops in London. 7,000, yes. But at that time, the people who had a lot of money didn't like all the smoke around either, so they did snuffing. they put it on their hand between the thumb and index finger, and they would snuff it, and then the people developed some tumors in their nose. Yeah, that happened. That might have been the first oncogene that we discovered. So it was between the back of the hand, the thumb, and the index. Tumors developed, and in the nose was this description of a carcinogen that caused cancer. Okay, in 1775, because they'd had so many fires in London, they made the chimneys a lot smaller. And you can't believe what they did, but they did do that. That's in history. They put children aged 3.5 to 10 would go down to the chimney to clean it up. They sent little children down to do that, and they developed cancers in their scrotum. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a true story. That's in history. Yeah. We did that to children, and there was a chemical, benzoprene, coal tar, that caused it. So toxins will indeed cause cancer, like hairsprays, creams you put on your skin. Some can cause cancer. I know of a lady, for example, who sprayed her hair every day and had a haircut once a week, and she eventually died of cancer. And I still wonder if it was the chemicals in the sprays. And be very careful what you're spraying on your body. I say even be careful what you're spraying on your lawn, because I never put chemicals on my lawn, but my neighbor did for years, and all his pets died at age 2 or 3, and mine lived to be age 20 or so. You wonder. That actually happened to me. So then asbestos was another chemical, and asbestos was used everywhere for insulation, trucks and houses, and it was a huge carcinogen, caused mesothelioma. Asbestos was used all over the world, and finally it was outlawed. So chemicals, toxins, can cause cancer. Remember, I'm speaking about preventing things, and then they discovered the radiating things. Marie Curie, 1869 to 1939, she worked a lot with radiation and uranium, and it affected her and killed her eventually. So radiation will change cells. So when people say, well, I had a certain disease and then developed breast cancer and they want to radiate it, well, that may actually produce an additional cancer. Radiation can cause cancers. And then cancers even went viral. An Irish surgeon, Dennis Burkett, went to Africa and noticed that certain viruses can produce cancer, and we heard about Burkitt's lymphoma, and viruses can feed cancer cells. In 1981, hepatitis B was a virus that also caused cancer of the liver. So 200 times the normal rate of liver cancer. So viruses can cause cancer. And human papillomavirus, HIV, all viruses that can cause cancer. So if they say you need to have this checked, get it done, because you can avoid a lot of cancers. So for many years we had this somatic mitotic theory, SMT theory of cancer, that it was your genes that determine cancer. But remember what I told you before, they're the seed. The soil is really what determines whether you get cancer or not. You can have many genetic changes. Breast cancer may have 200, for example. Well, they're going to give 100 drugs. So breast cancer may be 5-10% inheritance rate, but the 90% is what you do, whether you exercise, what you eat, whether you're smoking or not, for example. And so it rarely does one change of a gene go right to a cancer, but like in retinoblastoma, that just takes one gene. In CCL, another type of tumor, but those are rare. Those are very 1 or 2% of the cancers. But at what age do cancers normally appear? Less than 20 years of age, 1%. Age 20 to 34, 2.7%. 43 to 54, about 14%. 55 to 64, 29%. 75 to 84, 1.9%. Greater than 84, 7.8%. Yeah, I meant to say under 75 to 84, 19%. So, hey, since I'm 39 for the 40th time, the rate of cancer appears to be going down in my age group. Incidentally, I'm 88, have no disease, take no pill, weigh 134 pounds, play pickleball every day, tap dance, sing songs at Sweetwater. Am I bragging? No, but I just want to, if I'm going to teach you, I should be an example. Does that mean everything that I did would work for you? No, but good chance that it would, okay? And in breast cancer, we have the HER2 gene, a potent oncogene, but it does not have to be turned on by you following a good lifestyle. So about 30% of breast cancer may be genetically determined one way or another, and 70% of breast cancer occurs past age 50 or so, and also determined on hormones, but most of that can be avoided by good lifestyle as well as can other cancers, okay? So it's not the seed, it's the soil. I'm trying to get you, when I spoke, I'm talking about all cancers now. Don't provide the soil for it. Like skin cancer, too much exposure to the sun, for example, or radiation could damage upon the body. So let's talk about Warburg some more. Otto Warburg, remember he lived in 1930s till 1970 or so. He applied physics to biology. He was a genius. He was a friend of Einstein. Yeah, and he lived within 20 miles of where I lived as a kid in Germany. Would you believe it? I never met him. But he studied cellular energy, okay, and the chemistry and physics to biology. He did a lifetime of research with the cancer problem, but many years ago. And how did cancer create energy? That's what he studied. And so cancer cells use a different energy system, and we'll discuss that here a little bit. So normal cells use adenosine triphosphate, ATP, and they use oxygen and sugar to make energy. They make about 36 ATPs, okay? So it's called aerobic metabolism. But cancer cells use a more inefficient way, actually, glycolysis. So it's anaerobic, no oxygen, and lots of sugar. So if you want to avoid cancer, don't eat so much sugar, be of normal weight, for example. And they produce only 2 ATP and 2 lactic acid. And it's called fermentation. But cancer had something in mind, to live longer, okay? Remember I said glucose and oxygen, 36 ATP. Glycolysis produces only 2 ATP and 2 lactic acid, but it needs a lot of glucose, okay? And when we exercise, we switch to glycolysis for a short period of time because it works very quick. We need a lot of sugar. But the muscles then produce a lot of lactic acid, which can give you cramps, for example. But eventually a switch occurs back to the what do you call the oxphos, or the sugar in O2 method, we produce a lot more energy and can run marathons. And so in 1923, Warburg noticed fast-growing cells in a jar. He was watching funguses, bacteria in a jar, and he noticed they used more O2 than normal cells. And that was the anaerobic glycolysis method. So cancer cells use 10 times more glucose, producing lactic acid 10 times the rate of normal tissues. So it actually produces a lot more energy, and that's why cancer cells, like other sugar feeders. So tumor cells need a lot of glucose, and it's converted to lactate. So despite the availability of O2, cancer cells use a less efficient glycolytic pathway. But in the end, it produces more energy for them so they can grow. Nobody can stop them. That's called the Warburg effect, okay? So cancer cells must drink up glucose like a camel drinks water when it's available. Interesting. And so glucose is being used by cancer cells big time. And we already spoke about the PET scans using blood sugar. So the hallmarks of cancer are it grows, it's immortal, it moves around, and it uses the Warburg effect, the anaerobic glycolysis. Why on earth would cancer pick a less efficient manner of energy extraction? 80% of cancer uses the Warburg effect. Don't feed your cancer sugar to avoid it. Be healthy, be of normal weight, exercise, don't smoke. And so Warburg, the mitochondria, which in the end makes our energy, in cancer, they're dysfunctional, forcing cancer to revert to a less efficient method. So cancer is caused by mitochondria, which are inside your cells, that have been damaged. And so lactic acid is convertible one-on-one to produce energy, and actually makes 44 ATP. So cancer has really a more effective energy system. So they make energy quicker, but requires more glucose to do so. We already explained that. Cancer cells love eating glucose, but not exclusively, and this is interesting. So there are metabolic pathways that amino acids, that's breakdown of proteins, okay? And glutamine is the most common protein in the blood, but cancer cells love to eat a lot of glutamine too, so it's not just sugar. Some cancer cells consume more than 10 times normal amount of glutamine. Some cancer couldn't survive without glutamine being available. So it's not just the blood sugar, it's also the protein. And I know of friends that are big-time meat eaters. I didn't say don't eat any meat, but it's the amount perhaps or the kind that you're eating, because there's a lot of cancer in the family, especially certain cancers like glutamine more than others. Kidney cancers, they have a lot of kidney cancers in the family. So it's not just sugar, it's also the amount of protein, like neuroblastomas, lymphomas, kidney tumors, pancreatic cancer, for example, a lot of times caused by big-time meat eaters. Instinct. I'm just throwing out the information, and we need to gather it. Okay, and so remember I mentioned about the more inefficient way of producing energy that cancer uses, and they produce some lactic acid. Lactic acid also causes growth of blood vessels. Angiogenesis suppresses normal cell function, facilitates invasion, decreases immune response. Isn't that interesting? So when cancer spreads, cause of death, 90% of the time is that cancer spread, metastasis. And so cancer ever uses a very inefficient method, but cancer cells respond. They duplicate themselves about every 1 or 2 days. Metastases are actually one of the earliest steps cancer takes, that it spreads quickly. It's not at the end they do this. Cancer spreads right away, but most of them are killed by your immune system. Remember, you make cancer cells every day, but don't feed them the foods that they like. Cancer is not only a genetic disease, but also responds to what's around it. We know that now already. So we have many weapons now to help defeat cancer. Remember, your body makes some cancer cells every day. Your immune system is saving you. So let's talk about a little bit about cancer prevention and treatment. Prevention is the surest way. Remember, this talks about preventing it. My previous talk, which incidentally is on YouTube now, it's a YouTube Rudy Kachmann breast cancer, a 1-hour show on breast cancer prevention, which would apply to other cancers too, but I'm just giving you additional information. Lung cancer, for example, if you don't smoke, the rate goes down. That's the second most common cause of death in women from cancer is lung cancer. In 1969, okay, that's the year I moved to Fort Wayne after finishing my residency in neurosurgery at Georgetown. Luke Terry, he was Surgeon General, announced that smoking caused lung cancer. That saved 100 million lives. Remember, we could get on a plane and sit in the back and pull in the secondary smoke. I'm amazed I'm alive because I sure breathed it in. Maybe my other good health habits saved it. And smoking affects every cell in your body and causes 12 other types of cancers too. So many seeds of cancer are in us, yes, but the soil determines whether it will be expressed. 39% of breast cancers are already because of genetic changes, but those genes are not expressed by good health habits, then you won't get breast cancer. Extremely important. Prostate cancer, they even stop testing for it at a certain age because when we die, about 80-90% of people have some evidence of prostate cancer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 80-90% of the people. So what are the dietary determination of cancer? Most cancers cause no problem. Remember I said that? They're present in your body, but they're not growing because you're providing a good soil. So why don't you get cancer? It's the soil. Yes. The seeds are within us. Don't feed it, okay? So diet is hugely important. It's hugely important. The seed of cancer is ever present in our body, in our cells. So why don't you get cancer? Because you have good health habits, okay? The growth factor of cancer is always at least 35% of cancer, at least diet-related. It's actually much higher than that. And tobacco smoking is number one cause, okay? And obesity, maybe now, because we're not smoking as much anymore, being overweight is number one. But you can be of normal weight instead of increased rates of cancer because you may be diabetic. You may have fat in the liver and the kidneys, and you're type 2 diabetic, and then insulin level is up. Insulin has in it growth factors and make cancer cells grow, or any cell grow. Yes. So if you're thin and of normal weight, and if you haven't had a serum insulin test, not just for blood sugar, serum insulin to see if you are pre-diabetic, but there's no such thing as pre-diabetes. If your insulin level is elevated, you're diabetic. That's really a scam occurring as well in the literature. We should be checking our children as early as age 3 to see if they have elevated insulins, because the changes occurring in the body like precancerous and vascular disease, because the insulin level is elevated. Remember I said insulin is a growth factor, makes cancer cells grow, makes our cells grow, makes us fatter, for example. And if you get injected with insulin, things are even worse. Mm-hmm. And so obesity may be the largest thing. A Canadian study found that if you did bariatric surgery, cancer rates dropped tremendously, 78%. In Sweden, same study, 92%. So higher insulin load causes death rate and cancer rates to increase. And so cancer prevention and reversal, at least 80% of breast cancers can be prevented. Genes represent only 5 to 8%. And by practicing prevention, most genes won't express themselves. You need to have the proper soil, nutrition, exercise, proper weight, no diabetes, so the insulin level is down. Decrease stress, because stress causes us to eat more and want a donut and want sugar. And also milk, incidentally, is related. Consumption is related to, and I'll speak more about that later, to cancer rates. Part of the reason is when a little calf is born, they inject it with a growth hormone. So the little calf grows quicker. It produces more milk. They can sell more milk. But then your child drinks the milk, and your child is taller and grows bigger, and starts menstruating earlier in the length of time that you have more estrogen in your fat, increases the cancer rate. Yes. So the somatic, the SMT theory of cancer was a classic case of being in the forest and missing the forest because you're looking at the trees. Yes. It's been determined since 2009, that the genetic theory of cancer, that is your genes, was declared dead. Yes, it was thrown away. And what did the National Cancer Institute do then? They'd established 12 centers of physicists, non-medical people, to come up with a new idea as to what caused cancer. They determined that it was not just your genes, like breast cancer, 200 genes, you're going to give 200 drugs. So if you want to prevent breast cancer, should we be donating all the money to gene research in Indianapolis? And that's occurring for all the cancers. So I have great hope that we could educate the people that send the money, that they keep some of it here to promote prevention. Then the breast cancer rates will go down. And I think that may happen in this town. I'm working at it. Yes. So we were missing the big picture. 11,000 mutations in colon cancers, for example. We were looking at the seed, but not the soil, what they were growing in. So if all the king's men couldn't get Humpty Dumpty back together again, we need to ask other people to work on it. That's exactly what happened. And we have to give him a lot of credit. There was a Larry M-A-G-A Hardin, H-A-R-D-I-N, I think, at the National Cancer Institute. He said we need a new paradigm, and the reason is that it had to be peer-reviewed medicine before we could change, but he threw it under the bus. And while research studies were being carried out, nothing was being taught about prevention, and people were dying, just like in this town. The money could have been used to a prevention treatment instead of a sent for gene research, but the gene theory of cause of cancer is dead. It's under the bus since 2009. We need to change our paradigm, and we need it. So for centuries, we thought it was the genes. So, but it was the soil 90% of the time. I think you know it now. And remember, I spoke about the insulin growth factors. Let me discuss a little bit like cow's milk in cancer. Fatty foods replace fiber. If you're eating a lot more fatty foods, you're not eating fiber. And increased nutrient foods with vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals, but they have in them carcinogenic contaminants because they take the cow. And first of all, no animal drinks the milk of another animal. No veterinarian would go along with it because they would be dead. We humans tolerate it partially. And they spray the cow with other chemicals to make it grow more so it produces more milk, and they can make more money, and then you take the milk and you give it to your kid. It doesn't make any sense, does it? It's killing our children. There's also casein, a protein in milk. Dr. Colin Campbell, famous for running the China study, said this increased protein of casein increased cancer risk rate. Okay, if you ran experiments giving it to animals, the casein to animals, and they developed increased rates of liver cancer. A Harvard study on breast cancer found that fatty foods, ice cream, whole milk, butter, cream cheese, increased cancer rates. They ran it. So could it be the estrogen in the fat? Because fat has in it estrogen. And there's a hormone link. Glass of milk, variety of hormones. They have in growth hormones. A glass of milk has 59 hormones, 88 pituitary hormones, 60 to 80% of estrogen consumed is from milk. Remember, I already spoke about the growth hormone in milk. So when respected scientists thought they lost, brought this fact up to people to encourage the knowledge to be spread, because you know what happened? They lost their jobs. They fired them. It's true. Read a book called Whitewash, Joe Keon, Whitewash. It goes in detail about the milk. I reread it again in the last week. The growth hormones and the insulin growth factors we're consuming when we're drinking milk, and cancer rates go up. And let me talk about it a little bit. So the genetic theory of the cause of cancer has been thrown under the bus. And now we know that 90% of the time it's what we're eating, what type of food we're eating, for example, important. because we're eating a lot of sugar, the insulin level goes up and cancer rates increase because insulin also has a growth hormone in it. Yes, makes the tumors grow. So the link was discovered in 1985. Dr. Lois Cantley, discoverer of the P13K pathway. Remember, that's the enzyme I mentioned before. And he now directed the Meyer Cancer Center at Cornell University. And he found that this signal cell growth, cancer-causing viruses also have been discovered. We mentioned that. And that's one of the most famous human oncogene is that P3, which I told you about. Insulin is the biggest stimulator of P13K that makes cancer cells grow. So insulin in primitive organism was a primary function was as a growth hormone. Now it's largely an energy hormone, puts sugar into the cell, but it still has in it the growth factor. Isn't that fascinating? And so, what can you personally do? Easiest way is to eat a keto way, and to make it even easier, eat 2 meals a day. Through evolution, years ago, we only ate 2 meals a day. It's only since farming started about 10,000 years ago to sell their products, we're eating 3 meals a day. But you can still eat 3 meals if they're healthy food. But I want to make it a lot easier, like myself, 134 pounds this morning. No disease or anything. I'm just demonstrating I'm not hungry. Your body secretes about 5 hormones, 5 types of hormones in the morning to keep the blood sugar like that. So when I played pickleball, like this morning over the Aces, the place, I felt great. I didn't eat till after I played pickleball and I came home. I didn't even feel like eating then. Reason being is the stress of playing a sport probably increased my steroids, and they keep the blood sugar up. So the gut secretes hormones, and the ghrelin that stimulates the hormones in your stomach go down in the morning when the sunlight arises, and that's the reason. So to eat 3 meals a day is not necessary. What happens is when you do the keto way, you're eating the low sugar way, the sugar goes down, the insulin goes down, the fat cells open up and go to the liver and produce small molecules called ketones. Ketones are like sugar molecules, except they're much smaller. Your brain loves them, your body loves them, make you feel more energetic. Also, if you eat 2 meals a day, you have autophagia is occurring while you're not eating, is that the body is cleansing itself of damaged tissues, recycles tissues, builds new tissues, and gets rid of bad tissues. So fasting, you're more likely to have autophagia. And other things that can affect your rate of cancer is the power of your mind. I wrote a book here, The Healing Cancer with the Power of Your Mind, Love, Hope, Faith. It's on Amazon. I'm not selling books here. But how you think is important. And very easy chapters to read, and I'll write it like, which is important. How we think, positive thinking, the will to live, the mind and immunity, how you think can affect your immunity, and the mind and develop a purpose in life. I'm 88. My purpose in life is to spread health information. Here I am on TV today. It goes to YouTube within 10 days, and you can see it there. My breast cancer book. My 1 hour discussion of that is on YouTube right now. YouTube, Rudy Kachmann, breast cancer. There it is. And it teaches people about preventing all cancers, especially breast cancer, across the world. Across the world. Even India translates my YouTube shows into other dialects and other languages because they have the highest number of diabetics in the world. Remember, diabetics have high insulin levels. They're more likely to develop any kind of cancer. It'll have the Warburg effect. How to build the will to live. The will to live is extremely important in avoiding any type of problem. I remember I lived in New York City down the street from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. There used to be a doctor, and I read this in a book, took a lady to the museum, and they would walk through for an hour and looked at her favorite art, and he did that once a month for a couple of years, and she was cured of her cancer. Yeah, she believed, she looked at the art and the will to live for another day, another year, and the doctor walked with her through the museum. That's actually in this book. So, and you can beat cancer with proper nutrition. Super immunity, that's the goal. Super immunity. Remember, we make cancer cells every day, but if you're a positive thinker, you're eating the right food, and you're exercising, maybe playing pickleball with me, don't beat me, but a wonderful sport at any time of life, incidentally, even for children. And proper nutrition. Stress affects cancer rates, no question about it. Negative thinking, stressful thinking, so do things to relieve stress. In my, I read, we all have stress relievers and different things that we do. Before I moved downtown here, I would walk in the woods every morning, and I would pay attention to the birds and the leaves and the trees, and they would sing at me, and I'd sing back at them. And after I finished my 30-minute walk, I felt like I was in heaven. Yeah, I even fed the birds, and I saw the foxes and the deer, and then the birds would come, "Where's my food this morning?" I get so involved with that, but again, so is there a psychological profile for cancer? Yeah, I think there is. Negative thinkers are more fearful, more stressful, they exercise less, they're more likely to grab a donut to make themselves feel good. Incidentally, the desire to have one is still within me. I don't eat sugary foods, but if you were to put a donut there, right now, and after a stressful day of doing different things here, I might just grab it. So that's based on evolution, okay? And minimizing side effects of chemicals, of what they're going to give you, but get some information. If you have cancer, remember I said radiation chemicals can actually increase your cancer rate. I know a friend who had cancer, and he went to one of the hospitals, and they want to give him this chemicals, and I asked them what's the cure rate with this chemical. And they said, "Oh, we don't know. The drug companies just give us that, and we're running a trial." Well, ask questions, okay? Ask questions, because the hospitals get paid a lot of money by pharmaceutical companies to try out the chemicals, and they'll try them out on you. Yes, and so don't be a statistic. Gather some information and look at YouTube shows, read books, ask other people. You don't be just a stat. Don't you say, you got to do this. Well, find out the side effects, what they want to give you. You want to know the cure rate. And still, what I mentioned to you is that 90% of the cancers can be prevented. The gene theory of cancer is dead. Genes still determine a small amount, but you can avoid the genes from expressing themselves by not giving them the food that they want, a lot of sugary foods. So a keto, low sugar way might be good for a cancer patient, but I didn't say to do it. I said, read about it, gather some information. So a very good book to read too, in detail about cancer. And I really respect this doctor. It's Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G, The Cancer Code, a revolutionary new understanding of a medical mystery. I encourage you, and you can get them cheap online. You know what I found is I go to Amazon Books, and a lot of times underneath the book, there have been people who have sent, once they read it, they have sent the book back, and you can buy it about a tenth of the price. Yeah, like Susan Ryan, who's written a great book on keto life, and you buy the book new, $35. But I found out, and I was speaking to a church group, about 20 people, I found you could buy it used for $5. So I bought one for everybody in the church, and they all read the book. They all lost some weight, and their diabetes went bye-bye. So what do you think happened to their cancer rates? They're going down. Their diabetes is gone. One of them recently, when I was walking through the downtown, came up to me. He said, Dr. Kachmann, I lost 30 pounds, and my diabetes went away, and she was so happy, and so was my friends at the church. When you're looking at books on Amazon, not every book you can get for less. I even have one on there. Remember I said the breast cancer book? But today we spoke about all cancers, okay? But I wrote a book on there, Rudy's War on Diabetes, the industries that created it. Read this along with the cancer books. Remember, diabetes, insulin goes up, cancer rates go up. So thanks so much for listening. I want you to gather information, not just depend on me. Maybe read Jason's farm book. Look at some YouTube shows. Another good one to connect to is Public Health Collaboration UK.org. That's a group that is formed in England, and they are, I'd say, 20 years ahead of us now in teaching health here. Dr. David Unwin, U-N-W-I-N, listen to his stuff. A lot of YouTube shows, him and his wife. They both got rid of their diabetes, and cancer rates were going down, and they even have a little book out called Fork in the Road. But thanks for listening. I know it's a little complex, but listen, turn on the YouTube on the breast cancer thing. Look at this again. It'll be on YouTube in 10 days, and you can help yourself, your family, your friends reduce the chances of you getting cancer, and if you got it, how to control it better, maybe get rid of it. Why am I doing this? Because I love you, I care about you. I'm a doctor, that's my job. Listen to all the shows, and you can look on YouTube. I have about 700 other shows you can look at. See you next time. I love you. Thank you. Namaste.